Hi everyone, and welcome to another session in the BIM Harambee Africa conference. I hope you are enjoying the conference thus far, and let's look at what we're going to be discussing in this session. So the session now is going to be discussing an introduction to smart cities and how do we get there. I will be your presenter or your speaker for today. I am Shuaib Yunos. I am the BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure here at Baker Baines. I am a civil design technologist, Autodesk certified instructor, ACP, international speaker, and webinar host, also known as the champion of BIM for civil infrastructure here in Africa. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in civil engineering, my MEng, and I'm affiliated with the South African Institute of Civil Engineers, as well as the Engineering Council of South Africa. Like I said, I work at Baker Baines based in Johannesburg here in South Africa, being a part of numerous projects involving BIM for civil infrastructure, GIS, common data environments, reality capture or scan to BIM, as well as VR and visualization. So now that you know a little bit about me, let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to start off with what is a smart city and how do we get there, which is a really interesting topic where we're going to be looking at BIM, digital twins, and smart cities. Then we can also look at some planned smart cities here in South Africa, and then we are going to conclude and let you get on with the rest of the conference. So what is a smart city? Now, there was a really nice definition given by Kashif Talib, who was a leader for, or is the leader for urban planning and land infrastructure at Sotari. A smart city is a city where opportunity, amenity, safety, resilience, inclusivity, and prosperity are imperatives, and innovation across financing, design, construction, operations, and governance is embraced by all stakeholders to achieve these imperatives. I think that is quite self-explanatory and very, very on point, I would say. The emphasis on digital platforms also enables data collection, and the availability of large data sets is one of the first steps towards optimization. Especially in times now, we realize how valuable data is in making informed decisions for longevity in a lot of processes. It's not only in the AEC industry or PDM, it's practical throughout all spheres of industries. If you wanted to drill down to the nuts and bolts of it, or something that's much more technical, this is the definition I've come up with. So a smart city is a city that uses technology to provide services and solve city problems. Simple as that, right? The main goal of a smart city is to optimize city functions and promote economic growth while also improving the quality of life. Quality of life being the utmost of importance for citizens by using smart technology and data analysis. Now you can see where the technological part fits in here. Now this will include data collected from citizens, devices, buildings, assets, that is then processed and analyzed to monitor and manage traffic transportation systems, for example, power plants, utilities, water supply networks, waste, crime detection, information systems, schools, libraries, hospitals, and other community services. You can see what a wide grasp this has. And as you can see in the image on your right-hand side, the Internet of Things, or IoT, forms a critical component in achieving a smart city. So why smart cities? Right? I have got some data that was available in the report Building the Future, Keeping Up with a Growing Urban Population by Autodesk and Statista. Now, as you can see here, they give you the global average dailies for, like, for example, new roads and highways, accommodation or family structures, housing, as well as the growth of urban population from 2018 to 2050. Of course, that is projected, but it is pretty realistic. Now, what does this mean for us as Africa as a continent? Let's zoom into those figures. So if we're looking at the daily new road required, so the averages for roads and highway construction, we're looking at 394 kilometers. We're looking at housing, you can see it's just under 1,000, so 968. And our growth of urban population, the projection is 3.1%, which is higher than all of those that you see on your screen right now. So in a nutshell, if you're looking at a global average, we need 153 kilometers of rail. Keyword here is daily. I mean, that is quite a big number. Roads and highways, 3,169 kilometers. Power grids, of course, utilities form a great part of this, 17,476 kilometers, and water and sewer pipes, 32,034 kilometers. You can see those numbers are quite staggering, as well as measuring it or scaling it to a daily requirement. That is quite huge numbers. And this is what smart cities will help us achieve in a much more resilient, sustainable way, so that our infrastructure actually lasts longer. I had shown this last year, but I thought it is still quite pertinent. So just as a reminder, why smart cities? And if we look at it as Africa as a continent, right, that type of perspective, we are the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia in both cases. That is quite a stat, right? The area of Africa is approximately 30.3 million square kilometers, comprising of 54 countries, so quite a big continent. Africa covers 6% of the Earth's total surface area and 20% of its land area. That is also quite a big stat if you're putting it into perspective of other continents. So with 1.3 billion people as of 2018, Africa accounts for about 16% of the world's human population. So we're almost a fifth of the world's human population, right? That is also quite staggering. But the point that makes me quite excited is the last one. Africa's average population is the youngest amongst all the continents. So we're sitting at about a median age of, say, 20 years, whereas the world is at just about 31. So we have huge potential as a young continent. Now, the problem that we face here, especially in Africa, is that adoption of new technology sometimes can be quite slow compared to the first world countries and so on. And this is due to the old way of thinking, and we must inform. Now, what is the old way of thinking? AutoCAD was a phenomenal tool. It still is for certain projects where it transitioned us from the drawing board into a digital platform. But it's not suitable now for our complex problems that we do experience. And people are still using this process to get the data across. So you would normally do a design, you would export it to PDF, or you would even save it in the native AutoCAD format, so DWG, DXF, and you will attach that file to an email. Now, the problem here is there is a loss of data, or there's no metadata sufficient attached to that PDF. And that is a big problem because it becomes now a totally static type of a scenario. Now we need to change that, and this is why I put in this section, how do we get there? And we're going to look at BIM, digital twins, as well as smart cities. So let's start off with the solution itself. It is going to be comprising of BIM as well as IoT. And you can see that if you combine these two, they go across all of the phases of the project, from planning or inception to design to build, and then of course the most important or a very critical component being the operation of that, the longevity of that infrastructure, okay? And this puts us on the route for digital twinning. Now, before we get into digital twinning, we need to start off with BIM, because there is a big misconception BIM equals digital twins. And I'm going to demystify that today. So let's start off with building information modeling, or BIM. So BIM is the foundation of digital transformation. And the image on your right-hand side says it all, right? This looks at the growing adoption of BIM mandates, making it mandatable or mandating it throughout various regions because of its benefits. If it did not have such an impressive win ratio, if I could call it that, it wouldn't be adopted as aggressively as it is. right? And looking at our urban population and looking at all of those stats that are affecting and putting pressure on resilient infrastructure, we need to create spaces that are more smarter and more resilient. So making the best of what you have, right? We're trying to minimize wastage and efficiently, effectively use our resources and create sustainable infrastructure. Now, BIM data can inform the planning and resourcing of this. It could be at a project level, it could be at a city or municipality level, or even at a country level. And this is why BIM mandates are increasing across the globe because of this winning recipe. I mean, if something is posing so many benefits, why change it or why not adopt it and mandate it? And this is what many regions across the globe are doing. And I really want us as Africa to get onto this same wave. Now, you've seen this image again, but just to dig into this a bit deeper. So it empowers seamless collaboration, decision-making, and better outcomes for all stakeholders, and built on a connected data experience, allowing continuous iteration and improvement. So if you have an intelligent BIM model with a lot of metadata assigned to it, in conjunction with a common data environment, it's going to really create much more sustainable design because you're going to minimize, if not eliminate errors, and think much more insightful when you are creating designs. And that, if you reduce the errors at the start, it is going to have a positive effect. If not, it's going to have a negative compounding effect throughout the life cycle. So now that we know about BIM, let's talk about digital twins and smart cities. So BIM versus digital twinning. So just a fun fact, the first practical definition of digital twin originated from NASA in an attempt to improve physical model simulation of spacecraft in 2010. So just a fun trivia fact for you there. A digital twin is a virtual representation, right? BIM is a digital representation. They might sound quite similar, but they are very different. So it serves as a real-time digital counterpart of a physical object or process. The BIM process incorporates data created during the planning and design phases. So all of those phases where it fits in that I showed you in the infographic previously, it will flow in there accordingly. Now the digital twin extends this data. So it takes this digital representation and it connects it with live data. Okay, and that live data is possible using the Internet of Things. So realizing the full promise of digital twinning, I mean, you've seen it, you can read up on it. It is so beneficial, and BIM is the most efficient part to achieving this. Because if you have an intelligent model and you have the digital replica of your asset, of your infrastructure, of your facility, it makes the integration with IoT that much more structured. So an IoT system is an ecosystem that consists of web-enabled smart devices that uses embedded systems such as processors, sensors, communication hardware to collect, send, and act on data, right? So you get this data and you can make informed decisions based on the living, breathing asset. In brackets, Industry 4.0. That's literally what Industry 4.0 relates to in this scenario. So just to sum it up, digital twinning equals smart cities. You would need to incorporate IoT in this, of course. A BIM model alone does not. So if you have a BIM model, that is amazing, that is a great start, but it does not equal a digital twin. So let me define it to you in a much more simpler way. Credit to Dr. Khaled for this really good example on getting this point across. So on the left, you've got the BIM model, and on the right, you've got the digital twin. So the BIM model is the BIM model and process of creating and managing the BIM model. So you would create it, you would manage it, you'd have to do it manually. You would need to do it because it is static. So it replicates reality, but remains static. That is a very, very key point. So it replicates the reality. So you could see that, hey, there is the building, but it remains static because that's all it is a representation. So once the real world changes, the digital representation or the BIM model needs to be updated accordingly, and you need someone to input that data. So the decisions occur after modeling analysis has been done, right? So you would probably incorporate something into your BIM model, check it out after that, and make a decision, right? And then this is the starting block that leads towards digital twin. So like I said, it puts you on the roadmap to a digital twin. Now, a digital twin is a real-time digital replica of a physical asset. So it continues live feedback loop between model and reality, and the decisions occur while this data is being fed into the model or into the system, right? So the digital twin technology uses automated sensor technology for live update. So let me give you an example, and I will show you another one after this. If you're thinking of a plant, imagine getting data on a certain type of pipe, the temperature, the ductile strength, where the weak points are, if there are any heat points, suspected overheating or bursting, based on the data. It will help you to manage and maintain that much more better. An easier example to relate to in this regard is Google Maps. So on the left is to portray BIM is the location of our office, Baker Bays. So you can see it gives you the physical location, and that is it. It just shows you where it is. Whereas a digital twin, if you're going to simplify it, it will give you the data from wherever you're traveling to the office. It will give you various routes. It will give you the time. Depending on the time of day, it will tell you that there's probably a road closure, there probably is an accident, and you can see it gives you alternative paths with different times. This is what digital twinning leads to. So I hope this distinction helps you in demystifying the difference between BIM and digital twinning. Now, once you are on a smart city level, this is what you can expect. So private and non-local public transport operators, you can have an integration between them, non-operators, and also non-transport operators. This is quite key because it's like an epicenter that just expands and connects things that much more better. So you will have integrated healthcare, transport facilities, utilities, service provision, housing. I mean, it can go, the sky is the limit when it comes to imagination or creativity or the type of service or asset that you would like to make smart. Of course, it involves Industry 4.0, a very, very key component of this in IoT. And if you're looking at figure 1, so the bottom right corner, it shows you the near time as well as the long-term type of achievables. So you would first start off with operational efficiency. See how this works. Is it efficient? How complex is it? That will you get the job done? And once you fine-tune your processes and you get it into shape, you will then look at how else you can modify it, or what new products and service can you use this to wield so that it will be beneficial to the community. So quality of life is key, right? Resilient infrastructure is going to help us increase that quality of life. Once we have that, we can then look at tweaking it in terms of economy, right? So we look at the outcome economy, whether the services can be much more leaner, it can be afforded to the public in certain cases, depending on the services at a lower rate, or what can we do to fine tune this type of ecosystem? And then once we are there, we can then look at autonomous or pull economy, where you would look at continuous demand sensing, end-to-end automation, and resource optimization and waste reduction. I mean, this sounds amazing. This is what you're looking at, if I could say, the skeleton, or what is achievable when you stagger it and phase it and do it in that correct manner, you're going to get to this level, if not much greater. This is just a simplified type of a snapshot. Of course, you can read many theses, many reports, white papers, research, articles, blogs, all on this smart city, and it helps you to understand that much more better. Now, looking at the top top 10 smart cities in the world for 2020. This is according to a list that I found on Forbes. It's the 7th edition of the IESE Cities in Motion Index for 2020. And as you can see, London, New York, and Paris have been ranked the top 3 of all of them. Of course, and then of course you've got all of that. And I really want to see Africa feature on this list. I'm very passionate about this because we have the academic expertise, we have the people of knowledge, we have the technology. We just need to wield it so that we can show the world that we are on their level. If not, in my opinion, we could be way better. So I really hope that soon we will be ranked on this top 10 list. Now, if we had to put a number on the benefits, right, there are a plethora of actual benefits, but I've summed them down to 10 on a really nice blog that I had found, exploring the benefits of building smart cities. First one will be enhanced citizen and government engagement. There is no doubt of that, because if you have an interconnected, smart society, community, things are going to work much more smoothly because everyone is interconnected. I mean, if you look at the image on the right-hand side, life quality, economic development, revenue generation, enhanced transport, all of those things are going to be contributing. And if something doesn't work in the system because of the connectivity shared by the community, by the citizens, it is much more easier to communicate and adjustments done accordingly. Of course, the environment is of critical importance, and this will allow us to optimize and make our infrastructure, our housing, our transport, our utilities much more environmentally friendly. So in short, reducing the environmental footprint that we are generating. I mean, anything that's more earth friendly, I am strongly pro for, and I'm sure all of you in industry share the same sentiment. The next one is effective data-driven decision making. Now, if you have the data accessible to you, right, you could run a lot of iterations. You could look at things from different angles, many different angles that you could not probably before having the data, which is seen throughout the world in various tech industries, right? So effective data, if you know more, you could do more. Simple terms. Enhanced risk and damage mitigation. Now, again, it ties in with the previous point. If you have the data, you can mitigate, analyze, and troubleshoot things before they actually happen, or you could have foresee something happening and remedy it at the start. So enhanced risk and damage mitigation is definitely a great plus when it comes to smart cities. Increased digital equity. Now, what this means is where there is a digital environment, right, such as a smart city, people are connected much more because services are much more readily available to that community. And when you see the winning recipe before you and the optimization and offering of services, equity via digital means becomes that much more better. Economic development opportunities, 100%. I mean, it allows you, now that you have much more tools in your arsenal, to actually offer more or think of more innovative offerings to offer your communities, to your service providers, okay? And that's going to boost the economy and create more economic development opportunities because now you have much more to wield in terms of that. Smart infrastructure, I mean, that is a given, but I thought I'll just put it in there because imagine you could monitor traffic, you could identify bottlenecks, you could control railways that much more better, water utilities, you could find maybe renewable energy. I mean, there is so much I can give you, but smart infrastructure is definitely a key component. Efficient public utilities, which I've already touched on, enhanced life quality and safety. I mean, if everything is optimized and digitized, safety and quality of life will definitely go up. And then, of course, revenue generation becomes much more streamlined. So in summary, how do we get there? You would need BIM and IoT. BIM does not equal smart cities, it does not equal digital twins, but it puts you on the map or on the path to achieving that goal, where you would take that model, that digital representation, with the bridge of IoT, create an integrated virtual representation of the asset of the city and so on. So I hope that gave you a much more clearer understanding of what BIM is, what IoT is, what is digital twinning, and why they are all so closely interlinked in achieving smart cities. All right, so now we come to the next segment, which is planned smart cities. So I'm going to be talking from the South African context because I'm based in South Africa to just show you that we are embracing this journey, and I'm sure that the rest of Africa will also join upon it, if not already have. So in South Africa, we've got 3 smart cities that are planned. The first one is the Lanseria Junction, right? You can see the image on the bottom left corner, the Durban Aerotropolis, okay, the top right corner, and Mooikloof Mega-City, which is the bottom right corner. Right, so this is as per Business Tech. They are a very good, reputable source of information. And this is what South Africa is looking at from generating a smart city, which is very, very exciting. So let's unpack these 3 and look at what's happening. Actually, before I do that, we actually have, if you are in the Gauteng area, I mean, the synonymous one that you would actually think of is Waterfall City in Midrand. Okay, it has won numerous international awards for, I think, 4 or 5 years in a row already. You could go actually read up on it. It is very, very smart. I remember looking at an app that I downloaded for Waterfall City, where you could actually log things as a citizen. So maybe if there's a pothole or something that you would need to sort out in terms of infrastructure. I mean, I didn't go through the entire app, but from what I saw in the quick bird's eye view that I had it, you could actually log it. It gives you a pin or a location of it so that when it's sent to the people or the board in charge, the person knows exactly where to go, where to get it sorted out, and so on. I mean, that is phenomenal, and this is in our African continent, and to be recognized on such an international level, winning those awards years in a row, it just speaks volumes of what we are capable of. So that I'll just drop that in there. If you would like to hear about it or read about it, you can just Google Waterfall City, South Africa, and you can actually read. There's actually a really good podcast that was done or an interview talking about it, as well as you could read through these stats and see what the vision is shared. Okay, so let's jump into Lanseria Junction. So the city will be built surrounding the Lanseria International Airport, right? I'm sure all of you in Gauteng probably know where that is, but which is on the north of Johannesburg, in a project which is expected to take around 25 years to complete. Yes, it does take time. The reason why I've left that in there because something of such a scale cannot happen overnight, but if you ready yourself and you put yourself on this journey, once we reach there, can you think of, or just imagine how much longer or much more smarter our infrastructure will be? I mean, it really counts to creating resilient infrastructure. Rather than breaking things down or redoing them from scratch or modifying them and having problems, smart cities come with this type of an angle, which should be embraced throughout the world. So the Lanseria Smart City will feature rainwater harvesting and solar energy to limit its carbon footprint. So you can see the sustainability playing a key role in all of these smart cities, right? I've touched on it previously and now you can see it here. I mean, rainwater harvesting has become quite a hot topic, especially in the agricultural space. So if you're following that space, you should know it. And of course, solar energy is always on top, right? A lot of people looking at alternative ways of energy and so on, and carbon footprint, we really want to reduce that throughout the entire world. So it will be a 24-hour smart city zone that will offer retail, conference, and business facilities. It will also host the Lanseria Luxury Hotel. So you can see the mix of infrastructure that is going to be incorporated into a smart city. Very, very interesting thing when tied into if you studied urban planning, right? So as civil engineers, you also have to do urban planning, and to tie it in, like when you're talking about corridor nodes, activity nodes, lines, those type of things, and you link it to the concepts. It might not be bang on in terms of going forward in terms of theory, but if you're looking at the concepts behind it, they actually tie in quite nicely. And this is what makes smart cities that much more attractive, if I could use that word, right? So there's a strong focus on limiting the need to commute using cars. In planning terms, this means the new city needs to be walkable. So people must be able to walk to work, shopping malls, schools within between 5 minutes, so 400 to 800 meters. So again, this is also striving towards reducing motorized transport, using bicycles or cycling, walking, which is always great, not only for the environment, but for ourselves, right? Getting some good fresh air, walking, getting the blood pumping a little bit. I mean, it's really good. I mean, and to work on an 800 meter type of radius or radii, using that type of distance is not bad at all. If you could walk to things, it makes things that much more better. Okay, so you could see what Lanseria Junction is actually striving towards. The next one is the Durban Aerotropolis. So the Durban Aerotropolis aims to become a premier business and trade hub in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Because, of course, they've got the beautiful coastline. They're not like us here in Gauteng, unfortunately. So it can become an economic booming hub, right? Because there's a lot of opportunities that can be generated because of its favorable location. So according to the official website, so you can always read up on this on Business Tech. According to the official website for the Aerotropolis, the region will ultimately see over a 1 trillion rand in potential investments. That is a lot of money, and over 1.5 million residents. So a lot of generation in terms of economic growth, as well as housing a lot of people. Because of our population, if you think of the urban growth, is projected as 3.1% for Africa to 2050, or having the highest among those. I mean, you really got to think on providing roofs overhead, creating sustainable infrastructure for our population. Okay, so you will have to think of resilient and smarter ways to use space, use it sparingly, and minimize wastage. So this is exactly what this Aerotropolis is achieving or aiming to achieve. So it says that a number of components set the Aerotropolis apart, because if you want to become a premium business and trade hub type of environment in the sub-Saharan Africa, you got to have things that set you apart and affording it a distinct competitive advantage over other South African and African destinations. So what are these components? So the first one is a freight-orientated development with, at its heart, a world-class cargo facility managed by a single handler, Dubai Trade Road Corporation. I mean, thinking of that as a civil engineer, that is quite a good thing for us, right? So definitely something that's going to boom the economy. It is purpose-built. I mean, if you're looking at it, come on, housing the people, making it much more smarter. And of course, it is one of the few developments worldwide which incorporate a greenfield site with additional surrounding land available for carefully planned and controlled expansion. Greenfields are always the greatest project to work from experience, because you've got a clean canvas or an open canvas that you could design much more better. Whereas brownfields, you have things to link into, you might have existing infrastructure, demolitions, those type of things. There's a lot, right, depending on the size of the area. And I mean that if you look at the land identified and very careful planning and controlled expansion can actually make this thrive that much better. And the fact that there is additional surrounding land available, that is even better. I mean, it gives us more room to design much more innovatively. So really exciting to hear about the Durban Aerotropolis, and we really hope that these projects will take off and make us smart, not only as South Africa, but put us on the map as the African continent. The next one will be the Mooikloof Mega-City. Now, this was officially launched by President Ramaphosa in October 2020. The Mooikloof Mega-City development is set to be built in the east of Pretoria, so here in Gauteng, right? Really, a lot of talks have been going on about this. It has been come into fruition right now, so it is going ahead, and it's very exciting news, especially being the champion of BIM for civil infrastructure here in Africa, big champion of sustainable infrastructure. This is really great to hear. So the first phase of the project is residential development. I mean, like I said, housing is a really key component. Okay, I think the number that I showed you previously was 968 projected in Africa, so it's quite a big number, and that was a daily average. Again, keep that in mind. Okay, so some about 50,000 sectional title units are planned. Great, that is really good to hear. And once completed, the Mooikloof Mega-City may end up becoming the world's largest sectional property development. Again, look at Africa, look at us. We can really go onto the pedestal here and show the world a thing or two with a smarter, resilient infrastructure. And with land also earmarked for schools, shopping, shops, and offices. So definitely this is really critical, right? We want an integrated society, integrated infrastructure, all of the key components that one would need in order to thrive as a city and so on, or as a community. Let's give that a click. The megacity is a public or private collaboration, so it's a combination of the two, which is always favorable in my opinion, but that's another topic. With the developers Baldwin Properties, I mean, they are huge, right? So Baldwin said it plans to build an initial 16,000 apartments at a present value of approximately 9.6 billion in phases over the next few years, in what it described as one of the world's largest sectional title development. Got a bit tongue-tied with all of this, right? So yeah, I mean, projected value 9.6 billion, or current value could be going up depending on inflation or whatever, but quite sizable. Okay, so this may be extended to go up to 50,000 apartments with a total development value of approximately 44 billion in today's terms, the group said. All right, so this report or this article was in March 2021, so just at the beginning, first quarter of this year, so it's quite recent. Now, the reason why I decided to show you these, because a lot of people aren't aware of it. They think that the African continent is actually stagnant, and that is where they are wrong. We have that potential to actually develop, not only as South Africa. When I talk, I'm talking about Africa as a whole. We are one big continent, 54 countries, and we want to show the world that we can be the best continent in the world. And bringing this together and showing the innovation, the insight, the intelligence, education, academic excellence, and that zeal to actually develop as a continent. That is what I want to put forward today. And that needs to be done with using technology as an enabler. And that's how we're going to achieve the smart cities. So that's why I showed you these three: Lanseria, Durban Aerotropolis, or Lanseria Junction, Durban Aerotropolis, and now Mooikloof Mega-City. I'm sure there are many more that are going on throughout the African continent. You can always reach out to me after the event or during the event, and we can have a chat about it. But just look at the amazing projects that are happening on our continent. So that brings me to my conclusion. So let's look at today's takeaway. We need to embrace technology and innovation. None of this can be achieved in a sustainable, holistic, clever, economical manner without technology. Yes, if you look at the engineering that was done in the past, where it's mind-boggling how people did such great jobs and creating such amazing, iconic infrastructure. But if you go and drill down to the areas and the school fees that they actually paid in making those mistakes, we need to make them proud and carry this further as an African continent. So yes, we have all of the expertise. We are book smart or textbook smart. But we need technology. There is no way around it. Second one is, just to give you a recap, BIM does not equal digital twin. Please get that misconception out of your head, but puts one on the path to achieving a virtual replica. So remember, BIM, digital representation, smart city or digital twin, virtual. Okay, so digital, virtual. So IoT or Internet of Things is required to turn the BIM model to a digital twin or a smart city. So you'll have the model with its metadata done really nicely, 3D visualistic. You would take that, you would use IoT, sensors, hardware, link that to a dashboard, get a virtual living asset, and then you could manage it. You could do it for energy efficiency, lighting, maintenance. The list goes on. So you would need BIM. BIM forms a critical role, and it ties into our topic for this year at BIM Harambee Africa. It is a critical starting block in achieving a smart city. So please, BIM is where it starts, but it does not end. Last but not least, smart cities are a reality on the African continent. As you've seen what I've shown you today, we've got these amazing projects going on here in the southern tip of South Africa, in South Africa. And I'm sure that many projects of this nature are developing throughout the African continent. And these type of conferences allow us to showcase and make us all aware as an African continent what is going on. So with many planned in the pursuit of resilient, sustainable, and technological advanced infrastructure. I leave you with that image on the right-hand side, the global averages, the daily construction, railways 153 kilometers, water and sewer over 32,000 kilometers. I'm not going to read those numbers again, but those are all staggering. And we need to think of how we are going to be able to sustain our communities, our citizens, our people on the African continent in a much more innovative, smarter, intelligently thought out way. So I hope this presentation really resonated with you. It opened your eyes up. It cleared your misconceptions that you had. And I hope that you all are for smart cities right now. It is a great introductory type of presentation. So for those that were not clued up with it, I thought that I would make it at a level where it is in the middle. So not to dig in quite technical to it, being a technical professional, I thought let's keep it on the understanding wave and get it across. So I thank you very much for your time. I really hope that you could take this information forward, take this knowledge forward and champion it, and also be a BIM champion for civil infrastructure in whichever part of Africa you are. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I really hope to converse with you all and see you soon.